Hello and welcome to another episode of Set Musings. So we are up to Guilds of Ravnica, released on October the 5th, 2018. Now, this is interesting because we're now very much into the world of 1 and 3, or 3 and 1, whatever they're calling it, where there's technically no blocks anymore. So you've got a core set and 3 other large sets. And the reason why I'm highlighting this is because as we properly move into this, so we had the sort of standalone set Dominaria, as we're sort of moving over to the new non-block model, then we had a core set. Now we've got Guilds of Ravnica, and it's not part of a block. However, it's part of a series of 3 that is set on the same world, and I think unofficially, because of that, it was called the Guilds of Ravnica block. But under the new non-block model, technically it's not a block, and all of the sets we'll see contain the amount of cards that you'd expect for a standalone set. But of course what they did is, with the guilds, they split them down between the first 2 sets, and you'll see that we've got 5 guilds in here. And what we should see in Ravnica Allegiance is the other 5 guilds, and then the next set that's in the same world, on the same plane, for that we'll see, because I can't remember specifically what they did there. My guess is that they did as they've done before, is attempted to mash together all 10 guilds in some way. But we'll see how that's handled when we get there, and whether they've done that's done any better than previous attempts at doing that. So in this set, the guilds we've got is Dimir, Selesnya, Izzet, Golgari, Boros, and I'll be going through those individually by looking at the watermarks. That's how I'm going to sort of slice through this. So in terms of the set size, 259 cards, there's 111 commons, 80 uncommons, 53 rares, 15 mythic rares. Additionally, there's 5 basic lands outside of the 259 booster cards. There's also 8 Planeswalker deck exclusives and a buy box promo. So what happened in terms of the, I suppose you could call it the land slot, was that was occupied by non-basic lands, more typically the gates. So you had a gate in every pack, although I do remember, and we'll see when we get to it, that obviously there was a possibility that some of the higher rarity non-basics could crop up in a pack as well. So yeah, it wasn't the usual, the usual basic land slot was taken up by common non-basic land in the form of the gates. And I think I might be wrong here, but I do seem to remember there was a chance that you could get another one, like I say, another one of the dual lands in there that wasn't one of the gates. but we'll be going through the cycles that were available. So looking at the artwork, you can obviously see very much, you know, Guilds of Ravnica inspired, not dissimilar to the sort of things we've seen before when we've been on the plane of Ravnica. And again, you can see the legends here with this slightly different top to the frame, to the inner border frame. And you've obviously spotted, and I've mentioned it, the presence of watermarks. So let's look at the stuff that's above 259. So here's our basic lands. So they were only available because they weren't available in the booster packs. Those basics were only available in the bundle, and because the Planeswalker decks would have had to have basic lands in them in there as well. So that's how they dealt with that. So here's also the additional cards that were in the Planeswalker decks, and at the very end we should have the buy a box promo. But as I've done before, when we're going through this set and I'm slicing the set as a whole, regardless of whether it was in boosters or whether in supplemental product. So 29 cards were reprints, and you may have noticed it already, but Goblin Electromancer, Wee Dragonauts and Sky Knight Legionnaire were reprints from earlier Ravnica sets. You've got the Gates, which are reprints from earlier Ravnica sets. And then also we have the lands where when they come into play you can choose to pay 2 life, and if you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. If you do, then you get shocked. Shock lands. And that means 234 cards in the set as a whole, including all the supplemental inclusions, are not reprints at this point. So going through in terms of just the individual colours before we get onto things like guild colours, we've got 6 cards which from a colour identity point of view are completely colourless. You can see Chromatic Lantern was in the set. So although its colour identity is colourless, it does impart lands you control with add 1 mana of any colour, but also it can be tapped to add 1 mana of any colour. Then we've got cards which have a colour of 0 because there's no colour specifically in the casting cost, but the colour identity isn't 0 because somewhere in the rules text there's a reference to either generating coloured mana or consuming it. And you can probably spot here there's a cycle of lockets, which we'll come back to, but also there's a artifact creature which has a Wooburg activation cost on it. And then monocolour cards, there's 154 of those, some of which are badged up as being within a certain guild, even though they are monocoloured. And for inclusion in the guild, there's a number of different reasons why, you know, they would have that watermark. So it's either the card is 2-colour or optimised for 2 colours, or they use the guild keyword. If it ticks any one of those, then they get a guild watermark on them. It's 154 monocolour cards. Interestingly, then, there are no cards where there's, you know, one colour in the casting cost, but there's multiple colours overall. However, as you can see, there's 85 cards which have 2 colours in the casting cost. And you'll also notice here we've got these split cards as well. Now, not surprisingly, with the 2-colour cards, you can see, if we scroll down, all of the 5 watermarks that are present in the set. And there's a number of keywords and abilities that are tied to those watermarks, so we need to keep our eyes out for Convoke, Mentor, Surveil, Jumpstart and Undergrowth. And you'll see how those are mapped onto the various colours when I start going through the guild watermarks. Actually, I jumped ahead. I did misspeak a little bit here. So there is one exception with the 2-colour cards and watermarks, and that's for the Planeswalkers. They actually don't have watermarks on them. So yeah, that's the one exception. And that's it. There's nothing with more than 2 colours in the casting cost. And just to check something, make sure they're not doing any weird shenanigans with... Well, we already looked at this anyway, that's why I didn't include it again, but you'll see this is actually a 5 colour card. So looking through the different colours, ignoring specific watermarks for a moment, let's just look and see what we've got in terms of creature subtypes. So in white we've got humans, human soldiers, human knights, bird, unicorn, beast. There's an angel there, elephant cleric. More of what we've seen already. And then moving into the 2-colour stuff. And it will be interesting to see, within this set, how many times we see a monocolour sharing with other colours. So here we've got green, white and green, red. So I'm probably going to see, what have we got? Centaurs, elves, dryads as we cross over into another colour. More centaurs, elves, dryads. That's an elemental. And then in red, white, angels, humans and soldiers. Yep. Moving over to cards which have blue in the casting cost. I don't think I mentioned there. Let's just go up to the top and see. So 39 cards which have white in them in the casting cost somewhere. 31 cards blue. So what have we got? Sphinx, human rogue, nightmare sphinx, a frog, human wizard, drake, illusion, fairy rogue. looks like we've got lots of wizards here. And there's some spirits kicking around as well. There's a crab. Human assassins. Vampire assassins. A shapeshifter. It says we're moving into blue-black now. Spectre. And then in blue-red, we've got Vidalcan wizards, Drake, Goblin wizards. So more wizards. And there's a Cyclops there. So black, we've got a skeleton wall, bat, rat, vampire. You can see there's a few assassins cropping up here. Nightmare demon, a horror, an insect warrior. Warriors are clearly a thing across the set in different colours. Some human shamans, some insects. There's a shade. And we've seen all of these cards before when we looked at blue. So there's blue-black, and then black-green, zombies and trolls, an elf shaman there. Oh, there's a fungus zombie, and a gorgon. Some interesting artwork here. We're going to have fun on Friday. Seeing a few walls as well. So 37 cards in red. Phoenix, Beast, Minotaur, Soldier, Cyclops, Shaman. Oh, yeah, got a few elementals here. Goblins and dragons. And then more stuff we've seen before. Yeah, both here, so we're seeing cards we've already seen, because we've got cards here in red that share a colour with white, and also blue. So green, 44 cards that have green in the casting cost. Beast, elementals, elves. We have a cat. Couple of spiders there, an insect, so more insects actually, and some worms. And then the green-white cards, you can see there's a number of centaurs and elves. And then black-green we've got zombies and trolls and elves and assassins. So big spells. There are actually 15 spells where the casting cost is above 6. So that's the sort of colour breakdown if we move through the colours here. Now, as we've seen in previous sets, obviously these ones here are large mana wise if you opt to pay both parts of these cards. So if I just put this in casting cost order, we get a better idea here. You'll also notice there was hybrid mana in the set as well. So Impervious Great Worm is the biggest spell, 7 and 3 green with Convoke. We'll come back to Convoke in a moment, which helped cast a lot of larger spells. So moving through the guilds, we've got 37 cards with the Dimir watermark on them, and as I said early on, you can see a number of those are just mono-coloured, and then we get onto the two-colour cards, and there were those reasons for having the watermark on them. You know, basically, was it in the, you know, in the two color, was it a 2-color card was one reason, or was it optimized with the 2 colors in mind, or does it have the guild keyword on it? And here the guild keyword is surveil. So look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard, and that's the same here, but the number, so the number affects the number of cards you look at. So if you've got more than one, then you look at the top 2 cards of your library, then put any number into your graveyard and the rest on top of your library in any order. With one, obviously, you can either put it in your graveyard or leave it there. So you're sort of peeking at the top of the library. With Selesnya, same thing. Either it's in 2 colors, or it's optimized for the 2 colors, or it uses a guild keyword. The guild keyword here is convoke. So your creatures can help cast this spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell costs 1 or 1 mana of that creature's color. So that helps you greatly getting out some of these larger spells. And you can see there's quite a number of cards here with convoke on them. And then we move on to the 2 color cards again, hybrid mana. 25 cards with the Is It watermark, and for Is It, it's Jumpstart. So you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs, then exile this card. And then the Golgari one is Undergrowth. So when Lolith Giant enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard. There's 28 cards which have the Golgari watermark on them, and as you can see, quite a number of those have Undergrowth on them, particularly the monocolour cards. But there's a few of the 2 colours as well with Undergrowth. And then finally we've got Boros. So white-red, Boros watermark, and that one, it's Mentor. Whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. And you can see Mentor on all the monocolour cards, and then some of the multicoloured. So moving on to the cycles, we have quite a number here, both in mono and multicoloured. I think slightly fewer in monocoloured. So we have a cycle of legions. Sorry, we don't have a cycle of legions. What am I saying? We have a cycle of what are called colour identifiers. So this is where these are 5 monocoloured rare cards which care about other cards of the same colour in some way. That could be what they impart is going to be different for the different colours of mana. And the way in which it checks and where it checks for the colours is going to be different. Then we have these ones which are mythic rares. They're 5 mythic rare permanent cards. It's these 5. I just included this one here. This is a mythic rare, but it's not part of the cycle. So this is the cycle here. 5 mythic rare permanent cards. We have 5 mythic rare legendary multicolored creatures or planeswalkers, each of whom are aligned with a guild and is their leader. So these are the guild leaders. Guilds aligned with Nicol Bolas have planeswalkers as their leaders. Guilds aligned against Nicol Bolas have creatures. So 3 creatures, 2 planeswalkers. The creatures are in blue-black, green-white, red-white guild, and the planeswalkers are in blue-red and black-green. So another 5 cards, another 5 card cycle. So these are guild champions, 5 rare legendary multicolored creatures, each of whom are aligned with the guild and act as the guild's second in command. And as you can see, these are all legendary creatures. And 2 of them specifically have the guild keyword. This one and this one here. Another cycle. So these are a cycle of mythic rare guild spells. So a number of mythic rare cycles here. Mechanic spells, so 5 multicolour common spells that showcase the guild mechanic. Cycle of guild mages at uncommon, so they're all multicoloured creatures, each of whom are aligned with the guild. They're 2/2, 4/2 in the appropriate guild colours. They have 2 activated abilities, each ability costing at least 1 mana of that guild's colours and tapping to activate. They're named after the full title of their respective guilds. And we've seen mages like this all through Magic's history, like multicoloured mages where, you know, they've got the colours in the casting cost and then the colours in the activation costs. Sort of reoccurring theme across different sets, not just the guilds. So this was an interesting thing they did, and we've seen this in the past where a lot of the cycle, or part of the attributes of a cycle, are often based around things about the casting cost in addition to maybe other utility. So with this one you'll notice that all 5 of these have this, the 2 colours of 2 of one of the colours and 2 of the other. So these are 5 powerful uncommon multicoloured cards, each which cost 4 each which costs 4 mana, 2 of each of their respective guild colours. And then we've got these hybrid creatures, so 5 common creatures which have only hybrid mana and generic mana in their casting cost. We have 5 uncommon split cards, one side of which uses hybrid mana in guild colours and the other side is multicolour. And you can see here both sides share the same colour combination. There's another cycle of rare split cards, so 5 rare split cards following the same formula as previously. So the hybrid side depicts the guild champion and the multicoloured side depicts its leader, but you've also got this hybrid and regular mana combination that we saw in the other ones. Cycle of lockets. So these are common. They're mana rocks, cast for 3, each of which tap for either colour of mana for its corresponding guild, and they can be sacked by tapping and paying 4 hybrid mana to draw 2 cards. And again, it's something we've seen through various sets, this idea of a mana rock that fixes for the appropriate mana but then has an additional ability where you can sack it and then get something else, like card draw in this case. Cycle of 5 guild gates. So these were originally printed in the Return to Ravnica block. Each has the guilds as the gate subtype and enters the battlefield tapped. Uniquely, they're actually printed twice in the set. So let me see if I can bring that up. There you go. So you can see they're actually they occupy 2 slots in the set. Two different types of art and flavour text. First shows the guild's main gate and has a flavour referencing its leader, whereas the second shows a back door and has flavour referencing its lieutenant. Guild gates replace basic lands in booster packs, but of course because there was more slots occupied, no, hang on, would that? Just sorry, I probably misspoke there actually. Yeah. It's interesting how that manifests itself, because you're going to get if there's a specific slot for it. So I don't believe these also appeared as a slot, a common slot. I could be wrong, and you can correct me there if you know that. But yeah, these all appeared as replacing the basic land in the booster pack, so they had that slot. But there were 2 different versions of the card. Shock lands, so 5 shock lands, rare dual lands in guild colours, originally printed in the Ravnica City of Guilds block. Each has the respective basic land types and enters the battlefield tapped unless its controller chooses to lose 2 life. So quite a while since these were printed. And I was curious about the price. So they have cropped up. Yeah, again. And there's a mirrored pair, which is maximise altitude, maximise velocity. Both got jump start. And you can see the blue one, you get +1/+1 and it gains flying until end of turn. The red one, +1/+1 and gains haste. "18 mythics in the set." And we've seen quite a few of these already because they were part of various cycles. And yeah, it looks like there's slightly more multicoloured than monocoloured. There's our basic artwork. So only one of each piece of artwork. Or one piece of artwork. So there's 12 cards which are lands, but they're not basic lands. So let's just see, going past the cycles, what we've got left. So we've got Gateway Plaza, which was at common. And we've seen this type of card before where enters the battlefield tapped. There is often an additional cost, or not, and then it adds 1 mana of any colour. Of course, once it's out, you can then tap it for a mana of any colour. And then the Guild Mage's Forum, so it taps to give you colourless. 1 untap, add 1 mana of any colour. If that mana is spent on multicoloured creature spells, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So it's they call it a filter land, in addition to just being able to tap for colourless mana. There are 4 Planeswalkers in the set, and if you look at the number here, you can see this is the one from the Planeswalker deck, this is the one from the set, and here this is the one from the Planeswalker deck, and this is the one from the set. And you just look at the number there, you can see it's above 259. There are 8 legendaries. So we've got 2 in blue black, 2 in green white, 2 in blue red. Sorry, 1, I can't count now. 1 in blue red, 1 in black green, or 1 in green white. The reason behind that is that if you remember, going back to the cycles, in the cycle there were these 2. So this is why there's only 8 at a possible combination here of 10 if you're having 2 in each, because 2 of them come from the Planeswalkers in the set. So this one and this one. All the Planeswalkers in the booster packs. 143 creatures in the set. There are 11 enchantments. There are 7 auras, one of which enchants a land and does that thing we often see with land enchantments in green, where it will turn the land into a land that can generate multiple colours, 1 mana of any colour. Also you get card draw when it enters the battlefield. Three artifact creatures, 1 piece of equipment, 8 artifacts, and you can see most of those are those lockets. You also have an additional special mana rock in the form of Chromatic Lantern. And then we've got Silent Dart and Wonder Vertebrae. 41 instants. So you can see with these, it's a little bit easier to spot the ones where they've had stuff like bolted together that are set specific, because they tend to be the ones with the watermarks on them. But the ones that aren't watermarked also seem to do some, interesting things that you might not usually see. For instance, spells in that colour. There's an additional twist there. But also notice a number of these are actually modal as well. And then of course we've got the split cards in here. So we're pretty stocked for instant speed utility, put it that way. That can take care of a multitude of situations and threats. Interesting that our burn spells in red. Just looking at the cost on this. I suppose, what, 2 and a red. Target opponent may have a risk factor, deal 4 damage to them. If that player doesn't, you draw 3 cards. It's an interesting card draw in red there. Now often, if that's the case, I wonder if there's a red-white burn type spell here. Let's see what's at sorcery speed. Okay, so there's our mass removal. We got tokens and stuff. Oh, there's our black distraction spell. Interesting mass removal in black, like conditional there. Okay, we've got a number of different ways of dealing with different size creatures here. The prayer pond's in the set. In green. So it's interesting to see what gets melded together. Probably not a good word to use, I'm sure meld is used elsewhere, but what gets sort of joined together on the multicoloured sorceries. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, interesting how you get that, that nice flexibility of utility in certain things. So back to the set as a whole. Yep, it's going to be fun going through the artwork episode. Could be a long one, potentially. We'll see, I haven't selected the cards yet. Okay, price-wise, yeah, I'm no surprised to see that these particular lands, these dual lands, because notice also they benefit from having the land type named as well, which is cool if you've got certain fetch lands which aren't in the set. But I think outside of formats, just revolving around either drafting the set or playing sealed, but anything where you could have access to cards which might reference fetching either an island or a mountain or any other combination that's in here. So $15. Here, so yeah, these have all bubbled to the top. 12. I think maybe once we get beyond these particular lands, then yeah, that's down to 10. Oh yeah, we get a drop. So here looks like we don't have many cards, or any actually, beyond those non-basics that are above $10. Now, through the EDH Rec lens, looking at all the new cards at the time that weren't reprints at the time the set went out, at the top of the pile we've got things like Beast Whisperer, Assassin Trophy, Plaguecrafter, Midnight Reaper, and then Mizzet Pattern, and so on. You can see here. In terms of the reprints, yeah, surprise, surprise. So we have the Painlands. Did I say Painlands? What do I mean to say there? I meant to say Shocklands, sorry. Shocklands. Shocklands. Because they do take 2 life. Yeah, we've got Chromatic Lantern, Goblin Electromancer, Golgari, Guildgate. Yeah, so then we've got all the gates. There's a probe on there. So my suspicions are these are just going to push up above the rest of the set. So let's see. Yeah. But only the Shocks and the Chromatic Lantern. You can see Beast Whisperer is above the rest of the reprints. A couple more here as well. That's a reprint there. It says destroy target permanent or opponent. An opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle their library. That's black-green. Interesting. So let's have a quick look at the legends. Niv Mizzet Pattern has jumped to the top of the pile. So yeah, we've got there's 8 to choose from. That's top. And Lazav is the least popular. I wonder what I chose. So you can see up here we've got in terms of supplemental products, so the set, we've got these guild kits. There's also a mention of something called the Mythic Edition, which I'll get onto in a moment, and then Planeswalker decks. So the Planeswalker decks, you can see there's a blue-red one here, the Roll Caller of Storms. So these are, there's only, you can see slightly less exclusive cards now. It's just 4 here. There's a couple of additional rares. Out of the 4 exclusive cards, 2 are rare or above. And then the Vraska one, which is like green-black. And same sort of thing, 4 and 2. And just using the Guildgate in the Golgari one, and yeah, Guildgate in the Izzet one. So we've got these guild kits. These were released on November the 2nd, so they're a month after the main set was released. And ultimately there were 10 of these. So this is the first 5 of these. So 60 card pre-constructed theme decks flavoured after one of the featured guilds, combining cards from every Ravnica set released so far. They're not standard legal. The kits are packaged with 5 double-faced tokens, an official pin, a guild sticker, a spin-down life counter, and an insert with mission instructions. All legendary cards in the guild kits have the new legendary card frame, and the face cards of the deck. And then the expansion symbol is a miniature of the corresponding guild symbol. They have basic lands with the design of the text box specifically tailored to the appropriate guild. So they were pretty interesting. Nice sort of starting point for playing around with, you know, the various 2 colour combinations. And then what we should see is in the next set the remaining ones. And then this Mythic Edition, so this is an experimental product available at the web shop. 24 guilds of Ravnica boosters. Each of these boosters are clearly marked as masterpiece boosters and contain 1 of 8 foil masterpieces in addition to the normal rare mythic rare card. The masterpieces have their own expansion symbol MED. It received overwhelmingly negative feedback about the price. The near total breakdown of the Hasbro site on the sale date, the launch of the product, a message on the Hasbro site saying the sale had been pushed back to over. Yeah, this was a disaster area. Oh, and an apology letter went out. Yeah, they never learn, do they? So this is the 8 Mythic Edition cards. So you can sort of see this was, an indicator of things to come, or, you know, expanding on other things that they've been doing already, but certainly in the style of the layout of the card and this sort of expanded artwork, and, you know, creating like special things within additions within a set. And what we've seen, you know, as we move through from this period onwards, you can see here there's the Ravnica one, which we'll take a look at next week when we get to Ravnica Allegiance. So what am I going to do in here? Let's have a look and see. And surprise to surprise, it's Niv Mizzet Paran. So yeah, I'm going to have a go at building around, or I say I'm going to have a go at building. I am going to let the algorithm within Architect, the EDH Reg algorithm, help me select cards for inclusion in this deck. In the episode I'll walk through this. You can see I've left it pretty stripped down in terms of what I've included in here. You can probably spot at this point I've just included the watermark cards. No doubt there are some other utility cards which would be useful in this deck, but aren't watermarked and they're in the set. Probably, you know, if you were to look through the EDH Rec ranking here, in terms of, you know, certain cards, you might be able to sort of work out whether there's any red and blue cards that might be useful in here. Murmuring Mystic, for instance, might be a useful addition. So anyway, we'll take a look at that later in the week. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I'll catch you in the next episode.